Personally, I'd forgotten what the album was called, so I was just like Kim Taehyung album Spotify. Because let's talk about it. Why is there no song called Layover?
Hi, we are.
Luna Talk.
And today we are doing our final and seventh deep dive into the BTS members. How I did seven and I held up eight fingers. Great. How
Because
insane is
7
that?
plus 1 is equal to us.
Whoa, deep. Like, I enjoyed that. But before we get into all of that, we are Noona Talk, a podcast where we talk about K pop, K culture, K drama, everything you need to know, especially if you are a Desi fan. But even if you're not, we welcome you with open arms anyway. We are here on YouTube every 2 weeks where we do fun, like, chats about what's going on in the world of K-pop. But we're also on Instagram nearly every single day asking you about what you want to see from us. So it's a lot of talking basically. So remember to like this video and subscribe so that you're updated and see what's going on. We have a lot of episodes dating back to like months and years ago that you can catch up on. And remember to follow us on Instagram at NoonaTalk, exactly like it sounds. Layover time. Six tracks. Kim Taeyang did it. It's finally out. Lot did not realize that the album would be dedicated to Yeontan, but I'm not mad about it.
I love that. That is honestly my favorite part about the album.
I think my least favorite part about the album is the fact that there's no photo card of Yeontan. You can't use him in your branding that much, sir, and then not give us something.
Well, if you want the digital album, you just have Yeontan's face right there.
That is true. That is true. And like photo book also has Yeontan in it.
That's
But I
true.
need that
And
photo card.
Lumos.
Okay? That's the thing. Oh, of course. Never forget. There was so much Yontan. It was great. What a lovely time to be alive and watch a dog debut
Mhm.
in K-pop. Let's go over it track by track.
Let's do it. But before that, do you have initial thoughts? Or were those our initial thoughts? The
Those were my
Yeontan.
initial thoughts. Yontan was my initial thoughts. I was very excited for Tay's album because his voice remains one of the most unique ones out there. Like, I feel like there's not many who can emulate what he can do. And also, he has an insane range, which is something that I feel like hasn't been used as much, or maybe he doesn't have as much control over it as one we know. I'm not sure. But either
Mhm.
ways, insane range, amazing voice here for the album. What about you?
Yeah, I've been waiting for like Tay's music for a very long time because he's been talking about it, and then he would post these songs, and then he would delete them, and then we'd never talk about them again, and that was so annoying. Like "Travel with Me" it is like still one of my favorite Tay songs that doesn't exist. Was very intrigued by the sound that he would present because he does have an interesting music taste. It's kind of eclectic. It's got indie vibes, jazz vibes, classical music, like anything could happen. So I was super excited and super curious about what direction this would go in.
Okay, so let's start with the first track, Rainy Days.
I think it's named very appropriately. It sounds like the name of the song. It's just like angsty but vibe, like Rain's like angsty but vibey, and that's what the song is like, where you're just like listening to it and it's playing in the background, and yeah, that's about like longing and angst and all of that, but it's also just like it's like coffee shop vibes. They're just like listening to it. It's like one of those YouTube videos where like you're sitting in the coffee shop drinking your fifth cappuccino and it's raining outside, but your lover didn't show up and you have an exam in like 2 hours.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It felt very lo-fi mix of some other song. Like that's what it
Mhm.
feels like. It's a warm song. It's a really
Yeah.
nice way to open the album, and it felt very
Mhm.
authentic to what Tay's sound and taste has been in the past. Next song is Blue.
I'm not gonna lie, like this album is obviously very monothematic, like in terms of sound. It's a very similar sound. It's very e- equivalent vibes. And when that happens, what happens is that some
Nobody knows what
songs
song is what.
No, I can tell what song is what, but again, you kind of need to be a standout song. And personally, Blue is super forgettable for me. Like I never went back to it. I didn't listen to it again. It was nice, it was vibey, but there's nothing more that I have to say about it because I just don't even remember it.
The thing about Blue that I really liked was the heavier impact of jazz. Like the jazz drum line was really well done,
Hmm.
and it felt like it wouldn't be out of place in like Whiplash, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it now. JJ Simmons,
Oh
sorry,
my god,
JK Simmons,
best movie.
phenomenal. But I meant what I said. Okay, like I was trying to be very polite about this entire thing. Why are we wasting time on that? This album has exactly one song. It is a 17-minute long song. It has one song. All of these like different names do nothing. The lyrics are exactly the same. The sound is exactly the same. The modulation, the tonality of every song is exactly the same. Yeah, like one very 17-minute long song is what we are here to talk about. I'm not happy about that in case it wasn't obvious.
Okay,
But moving
moving
on.
on.
Okay, Love Me Again.
um, this is one of the two songs in this five song album that I actually like. I think again I don't really care about the subject, like okay, angst, whatever, who cares? But I do like the perspective where it's like the love me again part was interesting. I don't know. Like I think
No, sure.
it's framed in an interesting way. And again, I just like you're so right about this because I can't talk about Love Me Again without talking about slow dancing because in my mind they're the same song.
What did I say? It's one 17-minute long song.
But I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Like if you have a sound, which so if you check out our review for Jungkook's album, we did discuss how like there's no sound, and not that that's a bad thing. That is fun and experimental. But I do like this because it's like you have a sound and you just wanna like you made a very long 17-minute song to listen to on your drive to work or like on your Sunday afternoon at the coffee shop. I think that's a good thing. But yeah, I do like Love Me Again. It's nice, it's vibey, it's chill. I have gone back to it a lot. And I just like it. He picked songs that work for his voice, which I think is a really good thing.
Love Me Again was a good one. I feel like this is something I felt like throughout. Instrumentality wise, this was a really strong album where there were just things that I don't necessarily associate with the K pop industry, which I got to hear in this album. Um, and like it comes through very
Mm.
repeatedly in like, I mean, horns isn't necessarily the right way, but like horns and drums. Like there is a
Mm.
lot of trumpet and
Yeah.
the thing, and I think of course that's just because there's so much jazz in this album.
But I also really like the melodies or like the songwriting of this song. Where it's like, let me go, let me know. Like all of those like little parts and the ad libs. It's
Hmm.
done in a very interesting way. Like this song is not a boring song, and it could easily be a boring song.
Oh,
Which
interesting. Okay, I wouldn't have thought any of them were boring. I That's not the way but yeah.
no, I think there's potential because of the vibes and everything for it to get boring, but there are a lot of elements, like very subtle elements, that kind of keep it a little interesting.
Okay, next, slow dancing.
Okay. Favorite on the album. I think just the
Really?
visual imagery of the song is so nice. Like I love the idea of it. And it is like Tay is a very romantic guy and he loves like dancing. We've seen that video of him just like slow dancing in a room with like other
Yeah.
old people in Vegas and things like that. I think it's got a lot of personality to it as a
Hmm.
song, the harmonies and the melodies the melody to me is the most catchy in this song, but I
Longing is
feel
a
like there is a
really.
lot of scope in the instrumentation
Hmm.
and the production
Okay.
to make it better.
Yeah, I enjoyed slow dancing. I thought it was a very, again, like typical sort of Tay song to have. Um, but I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite though. But it is definitely top three. out of a five song album for us.
That intro really throws me off because it reminds me of like 2014 club songs, and I'm just expecting like an EDM beat to come in,
And then it
which
just
I'm
drops
not.
and stays drops, stays
Yeah,
dropped. Like the beat drops and then that's it.
yeah, like where is the oons oons?
Yeah, no, I
Um,
think so. For us is definitely my favorite track on the album
okay.
because of that, because it was the only thing that did something interesting. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
like if it made me go, oh, yeah, that's something.
I did like the chorusy vibes to it, and again, I think it would be fun live, but I'm not the biggest fan of the song. I don't listen to it as much.
That brings us to the end of this album. But so what are your
But
overall?
I do want to talk about one thing before we do overall song things. Okay, but oh, maybe this is an overall album thing. I think this was an interesting album, but what I think they should do instead is take the tiny desk versions and just turn everything into that and just release it as that, because I think honestly, when I first heard the album, I was not very impressed. I was like, okay, yeah, this is okay. I was honestly super underwhelmed. But when I actually heard the Tiny Desk version, I could hear the richness of like everything. It's so rich, and then I understood that there's so much scope for this music to sound so much richer, so much like. And I get the vibes that they were going for, but I think there was space for the vibes to be more dynamic, whereas this was very like mono tone ish. And yeah, the tinyless version is definitely the one we should look into the most. And if even if you're like, I wouldn't even recommend people to listen to this album. I would just make them listen to the Tiny Desk version of the song because they're so good.
Yeah, no, I wasn't just underwhelmed. I still am deeply disappointed in this album. I feel like the monotone thing just doesn't work for me. And I, it's unfair to, of course, compare any artist to any other artist, but of course, I have done that. Where it's just like with everyone else, I saw growth of either skills or growth in terms of thoughts or lyricism. Something came through where this album felt very could have been released with Winter Bear, and Winter Bear is a very old song. So if
Hmm.
I just felt like I needed to see more, and I know that there is more, so which is why I'm just like, why aren't you showing that?
Why?
Like, put it on
Yeah.
display. And I understand technically this is his first like official solo release, but even so, like, I'm sure there was more that was written. And even this is the same person who wrote Blue and Gray and was intending to have that be a part
Hmm.
of his solo, and that was a very different sound, which makes me curious how much production it went through when it finally was released to us. And you're right, absolutely, I 100% agree, the live versions are incredibly phenomenal. Like, the band really does such a good job, which
Everything. Yeah.
means I'm actually not sure if the arrangements for the live versions are better or was the production on the album bad. Like, I'm not
It
sure which.
wasn't bad, but it was just not enough. Like it felt, and again, I'll repeat this, but it's okay to have like a stripped down production. It's okay to have lo-fi thing. But I think just making this entire album that and adding very subtleties to it versus having some songs which have that and some songs which are actually more fuller in sound. Because the thing is that his actual voice is very full. It's very rich. So when we hear songs like Winter Wear or Scenery or Blue and Grey, which are fully realized songs, he has the potential. And I'm not always the biggest, I'm not the biggest, like I like artists who make their own music. I like artists who write their own music, but I don't need that to be a prerequisite to enjoy music. But I feel like I've seen what they can do, and he does it really well, and he does it the best for himself. So you're right, this doesn't show growth because everything kind of dulls it down. It just pushes it down a notch, which takes away from every, and a lot of it is obviously set on expectations and how we have known him as an artist. But I think his voice is so much more realized better. Like it's fully realized when the instrument and the production is equally rich. and that
Hmm.
was severely lacking throughout the album. Even if they had one song, even if Slow Dancing or what Love Me Again were the versions that they actually used in the live versions, that would be better. Like I just needed something
Yeah.
in the EP to give me something more, and nothing gave me something more. And that's what took me back. Individually, they're fine songs, they're good songs, it sounds nice. But nothing, there was no wow moment. And I really
Yeah,
was
absolutely. I
was
feel like the only wow moment was when Yontan's face is on projected on the mountains.
yeah, that
Um,
was really cute.
but other than that, it was lacking in many
Mhm.
aspects of that, where you were just like, oh, okay, okay, next song. Oh, and it just
Yeah.
never went like, whoa.
And I think that also translated to the visual storytelling of it, where it was a visual album. Every song had an MV, but none of them. It was just. I think what it did was create a emotion. Like it was a single constant emotion. But I'll give this comparison, and not to again compare artists, but another album or whatever mixtape, which is a single consistent emotion, is mono, which is just it's one emotion throughout, but it gives you so many dynamics within that. And I
Yeah.
think the mood building could have been better. And coming back to Min Heejin, who also does this for New Jeans, does it better for New Jeans. So I think there is just way more scope for this to be better.
Yeah, this was a very disappointing album to actually sit down and listen to. If this was my first sort of introduction, I'd be like, wow, what a soulful artist. But knowing what we do know and having been in this for years, it's just like, we know you can do more. um what did you think about Layover by Tay? Let us know in the comments below. Do you agree? Were you impressed by the songs? Were you also like let down a little bit and hope to see more? Because yes, this was a good start and we got it out there. Hopefully the next one we get is going to be like the one that really knocks our socks off. Right now my shoelaces are just untied. So remember to give this video a like and subscribe to be updated with all our new episodes. We will be back in exactly 2 weeks. I was Zara.
And I was Sophia. We'll see you next time.